Coach Greg. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a natty or not on myself. I know you're thinking, what the heck is going on? But in today's day and age, people, they don't believe anything. And so, as you know, I'm famous for doing natty or nots on people. And so I'm going to go through my old photos, tell you whether I'm natural, whether I'm not, and why. And so why would I do this video? Well, it all started when I posted this. A photo from around 2006, nearly 20 years ago. And in this photo, I put the caption, Natty Files, do you agree? I wanted to know, will people agree with me when I say I'm natural in this photo? Are they actually going to believe me? And so I should give you some more information. I'm a 5'6" manlet, exactly 5'6" inches tall. And sometimes I'm 5'6¼ depends on what time I measure my height. I'm not exaggerating my height. I'm not 5'4". I'm not 5'5". I'm not 5'5¾". I'm exactly 5'6", 167, 168 centimeters. I forget the translation. And so in this photo, I'm actually 172 pounds as it is. I'm 172. And full disclosure, the day before, I won the overall in a non-tested bodybuilding competition. And what does that mean? It means that I won the middleweight category, but I was seen as overall the best bodybuilder in the entire competition, beating out the light heavyweights, the heavyweights, and so on. And so if I had to guess my body fat percentage, I would say I'm about 7% body fat. Perhaps a little bit less. I can't tell. Depends on the lighting and so on. And in case you're thinking, no, you're probably a lot leaner than that, I can tell you that my legs were my softest body part. When I was natural, I carried more body fat in my legs, and since I've been enhanced, my legs get a lot leaner. And so I would argue that right now, my legs are far leaner than they were in this photo. Right now. And I do believe I am, in fact, 7% body fat. I believe that I'm leaner, look better in my upper body in this photo than I do right now. Now, mind you, I'm a lot bigger right now. I was actually 184.6 pounds this morning, 172 here. And so what you need to know is I have used steroids for 10 years. And since that time, I've been on HRT. And so many people are saying, well, why would you ever use steroids if you look like this? Listen, I wanted to get my IFBB Pro card. And once I reached my natural genetic limit, I decided to use steroids. And so what percentage actually believe me? And so of the 5,700 plus responses, 54% said more lies than last time. 46% said he did this natural. And so even my own fans, the majority, more than half, don't believe I could have looked like this natural. Many of the comments, for example, they'll say, you think that Jeff Seed is not natural, but yet you're bigger than him. This guy you said was not natural, but you have more muscle than him. Just because you have more muscle than someone else doesn't mean that you're a fake natty. In order to decide if somebody is natural, you need to look at their genetics, how many of the years they've been training. You have to look if they have gyno, acne. You have to look at all kinds of circumstances. But one of the biggest factors is there a time period where they put on an extraordinary amount of muscle? If you've been making slow and steady, consistent gains over the years with no sudden rise and fall of muscle, the chances are you're probably natural. It is possible that you simply were on HRT your entire life. But for the most part, people who use steroids, at some point, they're going to put on a lot of muscle. That, in fact, did happen to me later on in my life when I did, in fact, start to use steroids. But I can tell you that for all intensive purposes, this photo is, in fact, 100% natural. Now, if I were to time travel back in time and had this exact same physique at 172 pounds, I can tell you I probably would have competed far lighter than this. Why? Well, because I was close to 7% here. If I compete now, I expect more from me than this. I would compete at 4% body fat. But remember, when you're natural and you're dieting down, you do tend to lose a lot of muscle. When you're on steroids, you're able to maintain more of the muscle you have while in a calorie deficit. And so if I dieted down to the level of conditioning you expect from me as a pro, remember, when I competed as a pro, I was 195 pounds shredded, 4% body fat. 7% here, 172. And on show day, I probably was a lot lighter. So picture this. I'm at 7% here. I diet down 3% more body fat. It's probably going to lose another 5 pounds. 172 minus 5, 167. Add to that the fact that I am going to be dehydrated, going to take a diuretic. I'm going to be 165 at the most. And so think of this. I'm 5'6" and I would be 165 at the most. But years later, how much would I compete as? 195, 30 extra pounds of muscle. And so do you really think that it's impossible that I could have a 165 to 172 pound physique while being natural if I was eventually able to maintain a 195 pound shredded physique? And so in case you think no one's ever done a natty or not on me, Derek from More Plates, More Dates, famous for doing natty or nots, literally did one on myself 3 years ago. Discovering a retroactive fake natty. Greg Doucette exposed. But remember, we put clickbait titles, and so if you just see the title and you didn't watch the video, you're going to assume that I'm a fake natty, that I in fact was exposed, that I was always on steroids, that I never competed natural. But how many times have you watched me say in videos that I did 42 shows while being 100% natural? I was a lot smaller, but I was in fact a natural athlete. And when you see these photos, the next one I'm going to show you, you're not going to believe it. I am natural in both of these photos. Let's examine this Exhibit A from Derek's video.
See on the left, it's grainier shot in terms of like image quality. Black and white.
And so look at these two photos. Photo on the left, photo on the right. Clearly, I look enhanced in both. Right? Wrong. I'm 100% natural in both photos. Photo on the left, I'm going to tell you, probably looked more impressive and bigger than the photo on the right. Guess what I weigh in that photo? 149 pounds, and that was in the drug-tested Canadian National Bodybuilding Championships. I won the lightweight competition, was drug-tested, and passed. Lightweight, this is in the year 2000. This is 24 years ago, making me approximately 24, 25 years of age. Photo on the right, I'm 171 pounds. Notice how I'm less grainy, less sharp, less conditioned, but a lot fuller. Camera angle further, lifting the trophy, not flexing as hard as on the left. And so two different photos taken with two different cameras, different lighting, different stages in being flexed, completely different appearance. I can promise you I'm way bigger and better on the right. Night and day difference. The athlete on the right would embarrass the competitor on the left. That is the difference of 20 pounds of muscle in approximately 6 years. When I compete on the left, my goal is to be mind-blowing shredded, to have blinding muscularity. I did more cardio than last time. I suffered and it showed. I went from competing at 154 pounds to 149 pounds. I got 5 pounds leaner. And so although I was training harder than last time, I competed 5 pounds leaner. And why? Because I wanted to be truly peeled, to be known for my conditioning. And so perhaps I lost some muscle. But following this competition, 6 years later, I was on stage 171 pounds. That's 22 pounds bigger. And if you examine that photo on the right, look at the legs. Notice the conditioning of the quads. In comparison to the abs, abs look exquisite, amazing. Very happy with these abs. But my legs, although they're well formed, have great shape, do they look peeled, shredded? Do they have mind-blowing cross striations up to down? I don't think so. And so if I were to diet down from this competition, I'd be a lot leaner. Do you know what that photo on the right is? That photo was taken the day before the photo of me in the pool. That is the same athlete you're seeing. This was when I was in my modeling days. When I was in my Coach Greg, you could be on the cover of a magazine, of which I was several times. I literally was a world natural bodybuilding champion. And so if you have elite level genetics, of which I do believe that I had, you can achieve a physique like this while being 100% natural. But you're thinking, you don't have an elite physique. I've seen guys way better than you. Yeah, just because I'm not 6 feet tall and I don't look like Chris Bumstead doesn't mean I don't have an elite level physique. I put in the work. I started training at the age of 10. I trained my entire life. This is what I do. What I do best. But if you compare that physique to right now, I'm going to argue, well, let's see. Which photo would you say I have the better quads? Old man Coach Greg, or young, youthful, younger than last time, pre-Coach Greg? Although I was in fact coaching. I wasn't known as Coach Greg back then. I was literally a school teacher back then, educating students and so on. And so one of the reasons that I believe that most people think that you can't achieve an amazing physique while being natural is because for the most part, most people who have amazing physiques, they're not natural. But why? Why is that the case? Well, I'll tell you why. The temptation to use steroids when you look phenomenal is even greater than when you don't look phenomenal. You go to the gym, you've been training natural for 5 years. You're at the gym, flexing, you're walking around, and everyone is going up to you and saying, "Holy cow, are you on steroids?" "No, I'm natural." "Really? That's natural? Holy shit balls. You should compete." And then you enter a bodybuilding competition, and what do you think happens? You enter the competition, and then now you want to be the Mr. Olympia champion. You want to win. And so the temptation is there. You should take steroids. You should do this. You should do that. And so you do. And so what happens is before you've hit your natural genetic limit, you're already on steroids. You've been training for 5 years. And what do the people say? If you took steroids, you could be the Mr. Olympia champion. Let's use an example. Chris Bumstead. Let's look at this video. What did Chris look like when he was in grade 12 at 18?
At 18 years old, looking like a fucking sauce house and a half.
And Chris Bumstead out playing beach volleyball, whatever, looking like a friggin' Greek god at 18 years of age. And so what do you think happened? He admittedly started taking steroids at 18. He entered his first bodybuilding competition and he competed and he won. And how do I know this? I was coaching his coach, Ian Valère. Ian Valère, an amazing IFBB pro, made it to the Olympia, was in the top 10, very knowledgeable, educated coach, was coaching Chris Bumstead and was sending me photos of this guy he was coaching. And I'm like, who the heck is this guy? That's 18. He's 18, 214 pounds shredded competing. This guy is phenomenal. Watch him at the national championships, of which he placed second. I had him in first place. This guy is going to be the Olympic champion. Could not believe it. I think he was 22 years of age. And so what happened? He turned pro, switched to classic physique, and the rest is history. But imagine if Chris had gone down the same path as Coach Greg and decided to compete natural. At 18, he would have entered the show. Rather than being 214 pounds of muscle, perhaps he would have been 185. Year after year, he would have slowly added muscle, perhaps 3, 4, maybe 5 pounds. He would not have turned IFBB pro at 22. He would have not won the Mr. Olympia title, but he would have continued to train harder than last time and slowly added on more and more muscle. Remember, I did 42 shows natural. Imagine Chris Bumstead had also done 42 shows natural. He would have continued to progress, and rather than competing at perhaps 240 pounds of muscle, maybe he would have competed at 210 pounds of muscle. Would have still looked amazing. Would have still been phenomenal, would have probably still won all the drug-tested natural bodybuilding competitions he could enter. Likely would have been good enough that he would have even won non-drug-tested bodybuilding competitions. And he would have showed his photos, a young Chris Bumstead at 25 years of age, weighing perhaps 211 pounds, and we would have looked at those photos and said, there's no cookbook way that guy is natural. Are you kidding me? Look at him. He looks like an IFBB pro. Perhaps he even would have been a pro as a natural, and no one would have believed it. He would have posted a photo of himself at 25 on his Instagram account. He wouldn't have had 25 million followers, perhaps only 2 million. He would have showed the photo and said, hey, I was natural here. How many people believe it? 54% would have been, what, the cookbook? You ain't natural, Chris. 46% would have said, I believe you. Then he would have said, I've reached my natural genetic limit. I don't seem to be putting on any more muscle. I am now going to go on steroids. Perhaps he's now 30. He would have then taken steroids, entered the competition with 20 pounds more muscle, won the overall, turned pro, added in more steroids, competed and been the Mr. Olympia champion in his 30s. Literally what would have happened. And I know if I could time travel and tell him to do this, I would suggest him to do this. But the truth is we can't time travel. But I'm telling you what would have happened. And so Chris Bumstead, while being 100% natural, if he would have pushed the envelope and stayed natty for 10, 15, perhaps even 20 years before going on performance-enhancing drugs, reach his natural genetic limit, he would have showed the world this is what you can achieve natural. People would not have believed him. They would have said there's no way this guy was natural. But yet we would have looked at his slow and steady gains over the years. Every year, perhaps he's putting on 3, 4, 5 pounds of muscle. And later in his life, when he's approaching 30 years of age, perhaps it would have slowed down. Perhaps he's only gaining 1 or 2 pounds of muscle. Eventually, he can't gain any more. Then he goes on steroids, puts on a ton of muscle, keeps adding more steroids, and adds even more muscle. That's what I did. Is it making sense now? Are you starting to understand what happened? And so when you look at a physique, such as mine, you're thinking, you make natty or nats on other people, and they're not even as big as you are, and you're saying they're not natural. Yeah, just because I could do it natural doesn't mean that they could. Another athlete I did a natty or not years ago, Quinton Irea, Quinton Beast Mode. He was natural. He was winning heavyweight bodybuilding champions. I think he was around 215 pounds of muscle. Saying, there's no way this guy's natural. I'm looking at the photos like, how is this possible? Look at this guy. He's a freak. Look at the muscle. And so I didn't know, but I never saw any crazy transformations. There was no time period where he suddenly put on a lot of muscle. Then he turned pro as a natural. Then in his next competition, He put on over 30 pounds of muscle in a matter of perhaps 6 months. And so think of it. He's slowly putting on muscle. Perhaps he's putting on 10 pounds of muscle each year. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, puts on 30. How do you think that's possible? I'll tell you why. Natural gains while taking steroids with elite level genetics, cream of the crop. Then suddenly, steroids, boom. I have BB Pro. He was in Toronto. He got second. I had him winning. He should be going to the Olympia. Guy is a small waist, about 6'2", competing over 260 pounds. What was my advice to him? I said, Quentin, I would compete in Classic if I were you. Get mind-blowing peel. Don't add quite as much muscle. Compete in Classic. You'll be on the Olympia stage like that. Didn't want to do it. Prefers to be in open. Wants to push the boundaries, the envelope. That is his choice. I would suggest he does Classic. It's up to him to compete where he wants. The same could be said for Chris. Chris could have stayed in open. Chris turned pro in open bodybuilding. He could have said, I'm a pro bodybuilder. Cookbook. Classic. I don't want that. He could have put on more muscle than last time, compete at 260 pounds, and tried his best against Derek Lunsford. But no, he chose to be Classic, and I think that was a smart move, considering he has close to 25 million followers, a multimillionaire. I think he made the right choice. We will decide if Quentin made the right choice. Eventually, perhaps he'll be the Mr. Olympia champion. We won't know. Only time will tell. Personally, would have loved to see him gone Classic, and if that didn't work out, then go open. But hey, what do I know? And so in this photo, the photographer is trying to make me look taller. He's saying, lean forward, reach back, wearing pants. And in this photo, I was approximately 155 pounds. I was 100% natural, and this was in fact the day before the competition. I'm not pumped up. There's no special lighting. I just literally took my shirt off and he took a photo. That photo, 100% natural. I think I was around 25 years of age. Again, same day, couple minutes apart, another photo taken, 155 pounds, 25 years of age. 2006 Canadian drug tested world qualifier, the middleweight and overall champion. And in this photo, I believe I was 169.5 pounds. This photo, 100% natural. I won the division. I won the overall. I was deemed the best natural bodybuilder in Canada. And so if you don't think the best bodybuilder in the country can get to this level of physique with 20 years of training, then who can? Should there not be one person on this planet that can achieve this while being natural? Is there no way that someone can look like this while being natural? I'm telling you, many athletes can do far better. There are hundreds of athletes who have more muscle than me in this photo while being 100% clean. Guys with better genetics than me, perhaps they're taller, they have an easier time putting on muscle, whatever. There are athletes out there with mind-blowing genetics. And so, for example, I trained my ass off on the bike. I'm racing bikes faster than last time. I'm doing my best. Other athletes, they show up and on day one, they could beat me on a bike. They simply have the fitness. Perhaps they were runners in high school, playing basketball, whatever. But for some reason, they were given the gift of cardio and they can go faster than last time. It's unbelievable. I've coached these kids in various sports. I had a kid in grade 4. He could beat me in a running race. We're jogging. He could outrun me. He was in grade 4. I'm like, how much running you do? I don't run. We're running laps around the gym. I'm like, how are you doing this? Unbelievable. These kids with these kind of genetics, if you train them properly, guess what they end up doing? They end up winning the Olympics. That's what they do. I've coached powerlifters like this. Kids in grade 10 squatting over 600 pounds with a couple months of training. How are you squatting 600? You're natural. You're in grade 10. How are you doing this? It doesn't make sense. But yet I've coached them. There are freaks out there with amazing genetics. Slam dunking a basketball in grade 9 at 5'6". I'm 5'6", could barely touch the rim. How do you jump that high? I don't know. I just jump. They don't even train. And so one thing you'll notice with this photo, my legs are not all that lean. My upper body is shredded. Looks amazing. But my legs were not as lean. This is when I was natural. My legs, for some reason, I was carrying more fat. I had more of a glenoid fat distribution. I had more fat in the lower half of my body, more of that pear shape. Most men are android. They have fat in their stomachs, which is more unhealthy. For me, my fat was in my lower body. I would get abs very easily. I would start a diet. Abs looked amazing, but the legs, they needed to diet harder than last time. To this day, I have shredded hamstrings, quadriceps peeled. Everyone's saying your legs are your best body part. Wasn't always like this. Used to be. My biceps were my best. The triceps, my arms. Not anymore. People used to look at my physique and say, I can't believe your arms. And then later when I started diet, my abs were my best body part. Whenever I had photo shoots, modeling shoots, and so on, it was all focused on the abs. Look at your stomach, your clear abdominals. I didn't even train abs. I just got shredded from dieting and doing cardio, and I just happened to have those abs. Didn't have to work on them for a second. But now that I'm older, the legs are shredded. And so who knows? Perhaps it's the anabolics. Perhaps it's because I'm getting older. Perhaps it's because I'm riding bikes. But I do know my legs, my best body part, abs no longer as shredded as last time. And the next photo, this is the overall lineup in a drug-tested bodybuilding competition of which I got second place overall. The man next to me, he placed first. I'm in middleweight, he's light heavy. And so he narrowly out-edged me for having more muscle. Remember, I'm still in my younger years. I haven't put on as much muscle as humanly possible. But if you really zoom in and notice the quads, look at the comparison. Look at me standing on the chair right now as a 48-year-old man on HRT, riding bikes, hardly lifting weights, versus me when I'm a natural. I would argue my physique now, my legs in particular, better than this. Upper body, perhaps not as pretty, not as beautiful, but I do have more muscle than this. And remember, this is dieted down on competition day, oiled up, glazed, and so on. I am just now a regular human being working out as I see fit, mostly racing bikes, and I have more muscle than this. And so I'm telling you, elite level athletes with 20 years of training, they absolutely can achieve this physique or better. And so up next, 162 pounds the day before a competition. And so you can see, when I'm not under the perfect lighting on stage, flexing harder than last time, this is just a candid shot, don't quite have the same degree of conditioning. Although the shape is exquisite, you can see the separation of the quads. You don't see the cross striations. You can see my abs, but they're not etched the way you would expect when I'm flexing doing the most muscular. When I'm on stage flexing like this, as hard as humanly possible with a pump, it's a different appearance than if you're just casually flexing in the mirror. In comparison, this is what I look like when on performance-enhancing drugs. Can you see the difference? The size, the detail, the shreds, everything is enhanced. Clearly, why? Because I'm enhanced. This is the difference. Is it not extremely obvious, the difference? Do not see a noticed difference in size and conditioning when I'm on performance-enhancing drugs. Now, I'm not saying this physique is better. It's certainly bigger and leaner, but not necessarily better. If you ask a group of individuals, which physique would you rather have? I do believe most people probably pick the smaller physique, the more natural physique. And so just because you're on steroids, you have more muscle, you're perhaps more shredded, doesn't mean you necessarily look better. And one of my favorite poses, turning pro, IFBB pro, I was 193.5 pounds. You can see clearly leaner. Notice in particular the legs. You see the difference? Many people say when you take steroids, the difference is going to be in your delts, in your traps. It all seems to go there. I had way more improvement in my quads, more improvement in my lats, less improvement on my traps. And so I believe it's a myth. Not everyone who takes performance-enhancing drugs go and look like a gorilla. You're not necessarily just going to have wider shoulders than last time and huge traps. Oftentimes the people with those very wide shoulders is not from the steroids, it's from injecting hyaluronic acid or synthol. They're injecting oils under the skin. It's causing the muscles to swell out, and it's not actually muscle. It's not that the delts are growing with more muscles, it's the delts are growing with more oils. Do you get it? Does that make sense to you? Same as those women with more glutes than last time. Oh, I don't have ass implants. I don't have that. Look at my MRI scan. Look at my image. Yeah, you don't have an implant, you have injections. You have hyaluronic acid or synthol, call it what you will, and it's injected under the skin. It's causing the ass to swell out. This is done for models, OF fans. It's done everywhere. And so notice when you're relaxed, not posing, and someone simply takes a photo. If you're just standing there, someone takes a photo and says, hey, look, I mogged this person. Remember they were mogging Alex Eubank? They're at the gym and they're trying to say how small he was. He's just standing there. Oh, look how big I am. Look how small he is. Think the losers that are doing this, why would they do that? If you're just standing there, you're not going to look as shredded, you're not going to look as sharp, you're not going to look as big. You don't have a pump. And so you can clearly see I have the tan on. I'm actually very much pumped up. I've got the oil on. I'm ready to go out on stage. But I'm not in a pose. I'm not flexing. I don't know the camera's taking a photo right now, and so I'm just standing there. Just standing there. And so if you look at my legs, are you going to say, oh, you probably got 12% body fat because, well, I don't see much of your abs. I don't really see any definition of your quads. I don't see all that much. 12% body fat. Are you kidding? I'm about 7% body fat here. Very, very lean, but I'm not flexing. My upper body, if I were to tense down and pose, would have extreme amounts of definition. Now, my quads, slightly soft. Perhaps I was 7.5% body fat. Perhaps I was even 8. but I'm certainly not 12, and I'm also certainly not nowhere near as lean as I am right now. And so in the 160s, notice back in the day, notice the biceps. This is not synthol, this is not hyaluronic acid, this is not some special oils. These are my literal biceps. My biceps look so big in comparison to the rest of my body. I had a small waist, smaller lats, and so what stood out? The biceps. And so in comparison to the rest of my body, my biceps, they stood out even more back then than they do now. But what you also will notice, what you're drawn to, is the conditioning of the abdominals. I have very good abdominals, and so when you have great abs, it makes you look less natural. Why? Because your physique, it pops more. When you first look at a physique, the first thing your eyes are drawn to, remember, I used to be a judge, I would know this. Eyes are drawn to the abs, center of the body, and from there it moves out. And so the first thing you probably notice is the abs. You'll immediately be drawn to the biceps, and you'll see the quads. Do I in fact have an X frame? You're looking for, are the shoulders wide, coming to a narrow waist? Does it bow out to some X frame for the quad? And so overall, this is an amazing physique. It could be better by having wider lats, having wider shoulders, perhaps more detail in the quads, but as a natural athlete, this is highly sus. When you see someone looking like this, most of them, they're not going to be natural. And why is that? Well, I explained it earlier. Chris Bumstead started at 18. Why did he do that? When you have an amazing physique, people are going to pressure you, tell you, hey, why don't you take this? You're going to be amazing. You're going to win the Olympia. And so when you look like this and you're 100% natural, what do you think people are saying? You should take steroids. And so don't you think I had pressure to take steroids all along? Imagine the pressure. I'm winning almost every competition I've ever entered, and I'm 100% natural, and people are not believing me. You truly are natural here? Really? I don't believe you. Really? Are you? Look at me in the eyes. Yes, I'm natural. Wow, you should go on steroids. No, I don't think I need to. I'm still putting on 3-4 pounds of muscle each year. I think I'm going to just keep going like this. I'm comparing myself to myself. Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better tomorrow than I was today? As long as I was improving, I didn't feel any pressure to use steroids. I kept competing. For the most part, I was winning, and so why bother? Eventually, I stopped building muscle. Eventually, I wanted to turn pro. Wasn't turning pro back then because as an overall natural bodybuilding champion, they didn't give you a pro card. They do now, but they didn't back then. And there was no classic physique. This is over 20 pounds below the limit for amateur classic physique, and for pro, about 30 pounds under the limit. 30 pounds! And so consider this is nowhere near big enough to be at the limit of classic physique. This would be considered small in men's physique. In fact, very small. And so what I've been preaching to that, BB, well, they should add in another category for people that want to be big, perhaps something drug tested, a smaller division with lighter weight caps. Because what is wrong with this physique? What is wrong for striving to look like this? Think of it. This is 30 pounds smaller than I could compete in classic physique right now. 30 pounds smaller. And so is it big enough? Of course not. I would probably get last place looking like this. It's not enough muscle. But why should we be encouraged to add in so much size? Why can't a physique like Jeff Seed or David Lade be considered a professional quality physique? The standards have gotten so high, so ridiculous, that you have to look like a professional open class bodybuilder, essentially, even to compete in men's open physique. And from the back, you can see lots of detail in the back upper body. Hamstrings starting to show form, but not quite as lean as I am right now. And so one of the difference between my physique as a natural and when I was enhanced is when I was enhanced, I was able to get far leaner. Competing as a natural versus enhanced, I didn't find it any easier. You're thinking, oh, it's easy if you're on steroids. It's so much easier. If you're on steroids, it allows you to push harder in the gym. It allows you to diet harder. And so what do? You push your limit. No matter if you're natural or enhanced, you're doing your best. You're pushing all out. You're giving it everything you can. And so when I took steroids, I competed and dieted harder. I perhaps was eating the same amount of calories, but I was getting in that much leaner, that much grainier, having a lower body fat percentage. And so no matter if you're natural or enhanced, I'm telling you, bodybuilding is a living nightmare. It's brutal. You can hardly sleep, whether you're natural or enhanced. When I was on tren, I suffered from trensomnia, could hardly sleep. And when I was natural, I still could hardly sleep. Your body's waking you up all the time. You're starving, hungry, you can't get the sleep that you need. And so I lived my entire life like this. I've been competing since I was 18. I'm now 48. And so if you're contemplating being a bodybuilder, Ronnie Coleman once said, everyone want to be a bodybuilder, but no one want to lift any heavy ass weights.
Everybody want to be a bodybuilder. Right. So nobody want to lift this heavy ass weight.
That I don't believe to be true. Everyone want to be a bodybuilder, but no one wants to suffer, have insomnia, have low sex drive, be irritable, be starved out of your mind all the time, not be able to focus, not be able to work harder than last time, to lose muscle when dieting. That is what no one wants to do. And so there you have it. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Do I make sense, or am I just coping harder than last time? I was never natural. I was enhanced my entire life. From the age of 10 when I started training, I was on test and trend. I started the trend, the using trend, again. I was on trend before the Trend Twins. Let me know in the comment section. Now remember, I did all of this before there were amazing supplements like Turk Builder, which is on now, GO2 Max also taking an Ecti Builder, some of the best supplements in the world for promoting muscle growth, giving you better endurance, training harder than last time in the gym. If you have low levels of testosterone, of course you can use G-Test to increase your testosterone, been shown to improve it for up to 200 to 400 nanograms per deciliter. That can make a big difference. Also, creatine is 50% off. We also have hardcore stim pre-workout 3.0. We've got pre-workouts with no stim for pumps. And don't forget about the Seco protein bar, only 230 calories, and it's bigger than Yana bar with 20 grams of protein. This is an amazing snack. You can eat it every single day, even on a diet. Interested in any of the supplements? Code Greg, 15% off. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button. If you want to leave a comment, that would be great. I can't wait to read them. Also, watch one of the 2 bloops. Watch one now. If you're interested in the cookbooks, the training books, the coaching plans by me and my team, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line, you can get it all on the website. If you want a free diet and training program, it's free. It's close to 50 pages in length. Head over there right now. Become one of the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers on my website. And until next time, I am out.